for me, it was very different. My dad almost died. He had his lung removed in '62. I was in trouble with the law, and I went back. I worked as a janitor in a bank, and finally, I wasn't going to even go back to school. I was so disassociated with the Neptune on the conjunction to my Mercury that I finally had a big talk with my dad, and I said, I'll go back to school and I'll get a job after school, and I'll pay for my own things. I'll pay for my own clothes. I'll pay for my own food. Just don't bother me don't tell me what to do about studying. Leave me alone by studying. Don't tell me I have to study. Don't tell me I'm worrying about exam. Leave it alone. Get off my case. And if you get off my case, I'll go back to school and I'll take care of my own things. So he said, okay. I went back to school. They never said anything to me about my homework. My marks went from 40% up to 95s within a few months. As soon as nobody was telling me what to do, it was fine. But they wouldn't believe that I could do that. I did. And these things were all happening under this Neptune. Everybody was telling me what I should be doing. I'm disassociating, not fitting in anywhere, really negative thinking. Probably in those days, I was a young teenager or an older teenager. I would have been 16, 17, 16. I remember I was drinking. I was angry. My parents were. I was hanging around with bad people and stuff. So like it really did change to decide I don't want to see that anymore. I had to get away from that. I decided I would make a new start. At the end, I started to see more clearly, and then I went back, and it was like a certain way I was an honor student from that point on, at least with my maths. So it really was a tremendous disorientation, change of visions of seeing the possibility of being able to go with my own ideas. Yeah. I know it's been a long time, but anyways, then I get the square. When I hit the square, again, the Neptune confusion, my son got falsely arrested. And I had to take over my son's company and house to protect it. Then until the court case fell apart and let go, then I could give it back to him. It took a couple of years while the Neptune was on the Mercury. It was very confusing. At the same time, my mom's relationship to her husband, who was in Budapest, she was 80. Her 70-year-old husband started doing the cleaning lady, and she calls me and says, "Dan, that was my best cleaning lady," but she was heartbroken, and she left. She had to leave Hungary and came back. So then she came back to my brothers, didn't work out. So she came to move in with me, and she stayed with me for 6 months. By which time, I would get up and meditate. My mom would get up and turn on the radio, turn on the news, and get everything loud and noisy to be alive. So we were at odds that way, but it helped her. Then my son moved into my place during that period, and for my son, so I was in a confusing situation, not my world, and it was really difficult to maintain my studies and my thinking, my research while this was going on, because I was pulled into everybody's confusions and difficulties. And that was the Neptune squaring my Mercury. It really did affect the way I was thinking and how I had to make adjustments to take care of these things and put some of my other stuff aside a little bit. But investments, trying to make plans to invest or things with Neptune, it's going to be, with Neptune hitting your Mercury, you're not going to make smart investments, at least not on the market, or at least not around gambling or something. You might be gambling. It causes temptations the way you think, which you're going to follow up with your actions. So someone's not honest, someone's confusion, someone's thinking for you, you're trying to think for someone else, you have wrong expectations around your ideas. This is Neptune hitting the Mercury. Okay, so we're getting, it's a general attitude of net, something's not the same as what's happening here. They're saying something, you have to double think it when it's happening. You're gonna think there's some other, what's the other twist here? What else is going on here? What are the other repercussions here? You're getting alert to a puzzle. Then you can't assume it's working good or bad for a person until you see their life. And once you see their life and you ask the right questions, you'll begin to tune in to where the complications are coming from. It'll become obvious. Then you see where you have to simplify or calm down. Because someone could make a decision, I'm going to sell a house, I'm going to sell everything and get out of here, and it's a wrong decision. No, let it sit there. Go take off. Let it sit there. You know, there's other ways. There's compromised ways of dealing with it. So you try to find the mean or the measure of the simple way through. Now, so Mercury's possible. When you get to Venus or Moon, it's the most, Venus and Mars, it's the most dramatic. Venus is your sense of love and romance. What's the dream of Neptune going to do? Is make you dream that somebody's going to be the ultimate person for you. Or so you're going to have a one-sided love, or you're going to have someone loving you and you don't want to. You're going to have temptations around your emotions. You're going to have all sorts of temptations and deceptions and visions and illusions around what you want, around your desires. So this can feed addictions, it can feed codependent relationships, it can feed one-sided relationships. It creates a haunting, unreliable, even if you're getting satisfied in one, you're often, the other person's not reliable. Or you're dreaming about something, you're with someone, you got all set up and you have a temptation for an affair. Really sad things can happen around emotions. You get lost emotionally. When your emotions get lost, or even fanatical, you can't think straight. You can't plan properly when you don't want something. It's hard, you can't pretend around your emotions. How do you get to desireless? How do you get to sacrifice? How do you let go? How do you keep it simple? Big puzzle. So these will be the great loves and the great losses, the great haunting emotional moments in your life when Neptune comes up to hit the Venus. All right, got it all here. No, the wrong one. Yeah, so they're here. You can always stop your video and screen save and get a copy of each of these drawings if you want them, but it's not complicated. You just can think them through. Neptune's going to hit Venus, confusions around emotions, visions, temptations, rapture for artistic things, for seeing them. Person see a vision, I got to write this movie, I got to build this thing, I want to do this, I got to do this. They can be really dedicated to go do that, and it may lose. They may have to put their house up for a mortgage, and they do it without telling the wife or the husband, and suddenly it's all complicated. Or well, it could be something you want isn't happening. You want your kids to go a certain way, they're going a different way. It affects your emotions. But your attractions and what you're attracted to and repulsed by are both the attractions and the repulsions will be magnified and complicated by Neptune, confused, weakened, puzzled, distorted, tempted. So this is the fantasy love, the one-sided, the romantic idealism, the confusion. Now I have my Venus in Sag in the 4th house right on the IC. So often my security was never home. That was the violence of Scorpio IC. But what I wanted would travel and be around traveling and learn other things. So when it hit my Venus the first time, I returned from India to Montreal. I worked to pay off a debt. Okay, I was living in a little slummy little place, but I couldn't stay at home. I had to find this little place, and I got a little place in Montreal. I stayed for a few months, or 6 months. Then at the next time I traveled, between the next time I traveled down to Mexico and everything, I stopped traveling. I came to Toronto and I married December 70, right on the Neptune. This will do. I'll be here instead of traveling. I would have been traveling. I had no way of knowing how to be reliable and financially secure or stable or have a regular job at that time. But here I went and got married anyways, but I was probably relying a little bit more on her to have her job to balance things off. Then we moved to a farm in Orangeville, and then we moved to a farm in Pontypool, both out, an hour or so from Toronto. But my wife was working and I was at home. I had visions of astrology. I was doing some charts, but not pulling in very much. And in the end, it was the end of the relationship ended. But it was really a dreamy time of being in the country, having visions, looking with telescope, looking at the stars, had the visions of things, came back from India. I'm trying to live a certain way. I believed that I wanted these things, so I got married, got in the country. But there's no way I was realistically financially secure enough to maintain a marriage or maintain these things. So in the end, all that dream all fell apart and went away. The marriage didn't last very long. My wife got pregnant, we split up, and she left with someone else. And I was on my own, and I just couldn't believe that happened. But I was really overly pumped up because I had just come back from my meditation in India. So anyway, that's a whole story. That was when it squared. I'd been building up my school, but I started my scholarship program with the school where people could study from other countries and study from me on the internet for nothing. They could just listen to the tapes and go through it. Now it's videos, but that's when I started. That was a dedication. It wasn't financially feasible, but it was such a positive affirmation. I felt great about it at the time. I'm still doing it. My grandson moved in with me, and he was the love of my life, but he was getting in trouble and starting getting drugs. I couldn't help that. That's a funny thing. Another friend of mine, my car died, and he sold me his Buick, a big his Buick for $1. So I got a new car for $1. That was the Neptune Venus. What do you figure? And then I finished my I Ching book and I decided to give away copies of it. So I gave about 1,000 copies away to NCGR and ISAR members or astrologers around the world. And then I started the meetups on the third hit. And I took my friends' photo albums to take back to church so they wouldn't get lost, and I scanned them all so there would be a record of them. So this was this whole couple of years of Neptune squaring my Venus. At the same time, I had no money. I was like, fortunately, I didn't have a relationship with the second one. I was on that. So the first hit, I'm in the relationship, leaving everything, it all fell apart. The second one, I didn't have the relationship, but I did have my grandson there, and other things coming in, and other complications that were playing with my heart in an unreliable way. Fortunately, I've always lived very simply. I didn't need a lot of money. So I got through them. But this is like, you have to observe, you can't just presume what it is. You know, Neptune's hitting the Venus, it's hitting the emotional nature, what you like. Something's getting either the ideal temptress or tempter, the greatest person is there. You meet them, they're married, the one-sided, the triangular, the dependent relationship, the financially confused. Someone can be totally in love with you and you're not being satisfied. Everything's perfect, but you're not satisfied. And then you want to evade, and it sets up the affair. Someone's treating you badly, then you meet someone kind, you want to escape. So it's hard to know what you want. What you want isn't even real when Neptune's hitting your Venus. So you're driving impaired. So you add an addiction to that. You add alcohol or drugs, you're going to go into it more and more. You're going to be partying, you're going to be going with it, and you're going to be magnifying these problems more. The solution is simple emotional and financial self-reliance. Getting by with simple. If you have extra, you give some way to help a good cause, and you pay off some guilt. You atone, you build up some self-confidence. At least I did something good out of this. But the desperation level, and you add alcohol or drugs to this, can get really pathetic, down to the streets. It can be really problem with it at that time too. So you have to see how and you have to see how many. I mean, anyone who's been around for any amount of time has been through at least one of these aspects. They live through it. Not everybody's ended up in the streets. It's come out in different ways. Okay, so you'll see people with things to lose, tempting things, using things, and all that glitters, Venus, isn't gold. So we often learn more from what we lose than by what we gain. So vanity could come up, and vanity comes up in Venus. Neptune hits there, it's going to come way big, and you'll be isolated for your vanity. You know, or you think you're so beautiful, and then nobody cares. So you can't know what it is. You can sense it. As soon as Neptune starts coming in, you feel it. You have to work with it to Neptune. These outer planets, you don't get them so much in natal chart. You get them by watching people live through them at these angles, make these aspects, and you start seeing people live through them. You come to understand the real depth and puzzles of these outer planets. We learn these from the transits. We don't really learn much about the inner planets. We learn about the inner planets when we get to progressions, because it's much slower and we really see the inner attitude shift. But here we're seeing the outer world, these outer extremes. These are they're far away from our sun, our heart, our sun in our life. And the outer planets are things like we're watching the news as if it's as important as our heart and how we're loving it. And each day it's not, but we're magnifying. We're going out to these visions. We're going out to chase these things. It's like Neptune is like the hungry lion sitting, the thirsty lion walking along the edge of the desert and looking into the desert, and they see what looks like water, and they're sure that it has to be the oasis. But if that thirsty lion walks into the desert and goes out there, by the time it gets to what seems to be the oasis, and it's not, it's a mirage, they're too tired, they're too thirsty to get back, and they'll die. So this idea of the mirage, the fog, the confusion, the temptation with Neptune to Venus, the temptation on what you want, the confusion, the haughtiness, wanting someone you can't have, having someone you don't want, having too many people, having to decide, losing, and even financially, it's very unreliable investments. Big schemes, any big scheme with Neptune to Venus, be careful, protect your finances, protect your emotions, keep it simple. Don't go with the temptation or you will have sorrows that affect for a long time. And then when the sorrows come, you have to learn to atone and be dedicated to solve the sorrows. And then we take the Neptune to, just go to Mars. That's our last one here. Okay, Mars. Okay. Here we go. How are you doing?